Hello everybody, it's Kate here for the Spotfire session, and today I'm back in Adelaide and I'm on the right time, and so things are going well. So welcome to this week's Spotfire session. Today I want to talk to you about boundaries and what happens when we change the rules on boundaries, because I seem to be coming across a lot of that recently, and it's really not that uncommon. It's a problem that we as parents often accidentally engage in, and I often see it in workplaces. And so let me give you an example. So I work with a group, and this is historical, so this happened a while ago. But I worked with a group where they had somebody who had a slightly difficult personality. They were very self-motivated. The quality of their work wasn't bad, but they were difficult to work with because they didn't have a lot of respect for other people in the workplace, and this had caused grief for a period of time. So the way in which this workplace managed this situation was basically they gave this person free rein and they let her manage herself. And so she'd been self-managed in this organisation for a number of years. She did have a colleague that she worked with, but in the main she was allowed to get on and do her own work, and that didn't create a problem. And then there was a restructuring of the organisation, and she was brought into a team, and the manager of the team was sort of a micromanager. She was very much about holding people accountable and managing, like really strictly managing each person within her team. And this did not go down very well, and the person who'd been for many, many years managing herself, her behaviour escalated and became more and more of a problem, to the point where there were complaints made about her, but she then also complained to her union that she was being bullied and micromanaged and that they were trying to get rid of her. Now, the reality is that this is a problem that had been hovering around, lurking there, not being dealt with for 30 years. 30 years. And it came to a head when they changed the rules, and suddenly somebody said, you have to be held accountable. And for a number of years she hadn't been held accountable and was allowed to do her own thing. So that's an extreme example of what I'm talking about, but I see it on a regular basis where people are allowed to get away with behaviour that would not be tolerated by anybody else, but because of the nature of their personality, they often their behaviour is tolerated and it's not called out, and then all of a sudden one day something happens, a really significant incident happened, and all of a sudden there's a line in the sand drawn, and this person has now stepped over it and it's brought everything to a head. But all of the time leading up to here, they've put up with poor behaviour, but suddenly that behaviour is not okay. And I think that when we have a situation like this, and so let's say we have a person here called Alex, because that's a nice gender neutral name. So let's say we've got a person here called Alex, and Alex's behaviour for a very long period of time has not been okay. Alex does one thing which is now just that much too much, and they have now stepped over the line, and now management have got an issue because they now have to deal with Alex, who's been allowed to get away with really poor behaviour for a very long period of time, and suddenly it's not okay. And I think the way you manage that is you apologise to Alex. You apologise to Alex for not calling out the behaviour before and saying, we have done you a disservice. We have tolerated this for a very long period of time and it's not okay. And it wasn't okay then, but it's definitely not okay now. And I think you reset the line and you start it here. So this is the poor behaviour, stepped over the line, action has to be taken here. It cannot be tolerated anymore. The behaviour is going to jeopardise the well-being of the team. We say, sorry we let you get away with that for so long. And that's not going to be an easy conversation, but it's realistic because you have let somebody get away with it for a long time, and then you have very clear boundaries. So from today, these are the things that we will tolerate and these are the things that we won't. And if we see any of it, we're going to call it out because we have to. Because remember that if you're working in a team, Alex is not working in isolation. There is the rest of the team. And as managers and leaders, we have a responsibility to look after the team, not just Alex, and not Alex to the detriment of the team. These are really difficult situations, but I come across them on a regular basis. And what often happens is that there is layers of management. I hope this all makes sense when you look at this. But this is middle management, and that often changes a lot. And then you've got senior management, and then you might even have a CEO up here. And so often poor old middle management here is caught in the crossfire dealing with Alex when they might not have been in that role for that long, but they walk in and they step into a really difficult situation. That was Alex. So what I'd really like you to think about is my whiteboard needs work. Is to think about is that conversation that you have with Alex when you have to say, sorry, this behaviour is not okay. Oh dear me, how sad and tragic is this forward? Let me get a piece of paper and see if we can make this work a bit better. No, truly, really, that's all very sad. Okay, so what does the conversation where you apologise for tolerating poor behaviour look like? And I think it does start with an apology. I think when you meet with Alex, you have to talk about in really specific terms the behaviour. What have you witnessed? So you have to be really clear. It can't be generalisations. It has to be very specific situations, blow by blow. This is what I saw happen, and this was the consequence of that behaviour. You need to call it out. And at that point, Alex might say, but I've always done that. And you say, okay, I owe you an apology. I'm really sorry. We owe you an apology. We have not taken any action on this before, and we're not going to penalise you or punish you in any way for this. What we're saying is that from this moment forward, this behaviour can't be tolerated. And we're drawing a really clear line in the sand about what we will accept and what we won't accept. Because now you can't say that you don't know, but also we have a responsibility to the rest of the group. And what we're seeing is that when this behaviour happens, there are consequences within the team. Now this person, Alex, might say, but I don't want to work in that environment because I don't think that's fair. And you can say, that's okay. You don't have to agree with it, but you need to know that these are the rules. And these are the rules that they apply going forward. I'm not applying them retrospectively, I'm applying them now and into the future. And then you can work with that person and you can provide them with coaching, and you could possibly set them some minor little goals to achieve on a weekly basis, like check in. How are you going? This is what we're doing. This is how we're going to respond to situations. So it could be somebody who constantly complains or who might be undermining other staff members and telling clients or customers that they're no good. It could be a whole range of different things that is happening, but you have to call out Alex's behaviour and say, these are the things that I've noticed. This is what from this day forward is not acceptable, and this is what is acceptable, and I'm happy to work with you to help you through this process. And then you look after them and you assist them to get through that. Now, it may be that Alex decides, I don't want this anymore, and they may choose to leave, and it might be a way of culturing them, if that's a word, out of the organisation of the business, because you've said this is what it has to be. It's not unreasonable, you're being fair, but you're basically telling them that this is what it looks like. And if they don't like the new world, then they can make a decision about what they want to do about it. But you must, as a leader, look after the whole team. There has to be fairness in the team. There has to be really clear boundaries about what is acceptable and what's not. And those guidelines can't change on a day-by-day basis depending on the circumstances or who's involved. There can be no favouritism. And the favouritism sometimes is that we look after a friend, and sometimes we actually look after the person who's got the most difficult behaviour in the group, and we just tolerate really inappropriate behaviour because it's too hard to call it out because we're scared to have that conversation. And I know that that's really difficult, but I have to tell you that if you don't call it out, not only do you affect Alex, but you're affecting the whole team. You're probably feeling sick about it, and then there'll be consequences that go up the line. So if you are a CEO, senior management, you need to support your middle managers and your junior managers about how to deal with these situations. And if they do provide an opportunity to very clearly draw that line, and this person then keeps stepping over it, then you need to support them through that process so that the managers, that there's a clear role for management going forward, that this will not be tolerated, and we as a group have drawn that line in the sand, and if you cross it, we will call it out and we will take action. You have to be firm in the way in which you approach this. So look, I hope that that's of use to you. This is a really complex situation, and it's very difficult, and it can create really, really stressful situations in the workplace, particularly for middle managers who often get stuck with somebody before them tolerating that behaviour, and then they land with this problem that they didn't set up, and now they've got to get out of it. And I think that's when you absolutely need senior management to step up and say, we're here with you, we're going to work through this together, we're going to be with you through this process. Have a great week. I will see you all soon, and if there's anything I can do to assist you or your organisation to deal with these type of issues, please let me know. I'm dealing with quite a lot of them at the moment. It just seems to be the flavour of the month. As I say, I see this not only in workplaces, but I see this happen in families where something happens and all of a sudden a line is drawn and applied retrospectively, and for the child that can create a very unfair outcome. So if you start applying any boundaries retrospectively, you're going to find yourself in a world of pain. If you as the leader have tolerated behaviour in the past and all of a sudden you don't like that, then you have to reset the line. You have to say, on this date, from going forward, this is the behaviour that we expect, and anything that doesn't meet that, there will be consequences. But you cannot apply it retrospectively because it's just not fair. All right, have a lovely week, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.